Good morning. Day 204. It's going to be another scorcher, but right now it's a little cooler, tolerable. And the cows are down in the water, getting hydrated. I don't know if you probably can't see them way over there. It's a really nice sight. Early morning is always it's good for me as a peacemaker. It's a peaceful time of day. It's quiet. I just love this time. And it was a beautiful sunrise this morning. For those of you that were local, just all kinds of like mango and purple colors. It was beautiful. Here we've got a good shot of it. All right, so we went on to Mark chapters 3 and 4 today. And I'm titling today, Becoming a Master Chef. Stick with me. I'm going to use a parable to explain a few parables together and how my brain works. And I'm going to even kind of work backwards. Jesus gives a parable of a lamp. And like, you wouldn't put a lamp under a basket, under a bed, right? You're like, well, no, of course not. No, you need to pull it out so that it can shine. And not only that, but it will reveal all that is hidden. And then he says, and if you listen carefully, not just hear, but listen, then you will understand. And many who hear won't understand because they're not listening. They're not trying to. And hey, good morning. You're up so early on the West Coast there. Or who knows, what part of the world are you in, Vicky? You might be in a totally different time zone. So what does this have to do with being a chef, you ask? And I love, actually, in this one, before I move on to that, let's talk about the couple of parables or examples that I'm going to use to pull this thread of cooking and becoming a chef. I love how he uses mixed metaphors. So he's focusing on light, which we perceive with our eyes, but then he switches gears and tells us to listen. I think that's intentional. That's a wholehearted, whole body, like, pay attention. Things are not what they seem, but you will understand if you keep allowing the light to show you, to let you to listen, to see and to listen carefully. And then back in chapter 3, there's an example. Jesus comes into the temple and there's a man and the teachers of the law are there. They're waiting to catch him. They're waiting to nab him. And oh my goodness, God, yeah, Turlock. Okay, yes, I was just thinking about Turlock the other day. Memories. Yes. Okay, back to Mark chapter 3. So the teachers, the Pharisees are just waiting for Jesus to slip up and get it wrong, break a rule. And it's the Sabbath, and he's in the temple, and there's a man that has a injured hand, and he knows there, and he looks at them and he says, "Don't you understand that good is supposed to be done on the Sabbath? Would you have me do evil?" And of course, they're not listening. They're not getting it. They're focused on the law, the rules. And he does go ahead and heal the man's hand. They, of course, go running back to the authorities to say, gee, he broke the rule. And it describes Jesus in this moment as being angry and sad at their hard hearts. They don't get it. They're not seeing and they're not listening. They're hearing, but they're not listening. They don't get it. And we don't either. Now, for those of you that are not cooks or you don't like to cook, my analogy maybe you might tune out, but I'm going to ask you not to tune out. And maybe you'll even get in the kitchen. But the intent, and I'm not talking about baking here. Baking is a science. And before I go into the analogy, let's do a little bit of brain science here. There is a part of our brain that they have identified called the reticular activating system. And it is like the brain's filter because there is so much going on in front of you with all of your senses that if you took everything in, you'd like blow up. You just can't take all of it in. So the reticular activating system decides what to take in. It filters it. And if you're not intentionally telling it what to focus on, what's important to you, and you don't know, then it is like a wild animal. It's just dragging you around, being concerned by the worries of the day, or people pleasing, or this or that. Like you feel scattered, you don't know. Been there, done that, know how that feels. And Mark, even to throw in another little story here, that he tells his version of the farmer scattering seeds and how one is in rocky soil and one maybe even grows a little, but it's choked out by the worries of the day. So there's brain science in the Bible, y'all, that is confirmed. Like, be careful what you focus on, because whatever you focus on will rule you, will determine how you see certain situations, how you interact with the world, with other people. And it's going to give you your life, and how you interact with it and with people leaves a meal or something for the people around you to feast on. And are you feeding and nourishing people, or are you giving them a microwave pizza? All right, so let's go into the analogy. This is going to be fun. All right, so when you're a newbie cook, and I came from a family that loved to cook, so I grew up just loving it and wanting to do it. But when I was new to cooking on my own as a young adult, I had to start off with recipes and instructions. And I still use a lot of recipes and instructions. They're a great starting place. But if you're the type of person that has to follow a rule and it's got to be perfect and it's got to be exact, you're going to miss out on a lot of really delicious, nourishing meals, because you're going to be focused on exact, and then you're going to spend a lot of time frustrated. And you might even have maybe you had all of the ingredients and you cooked it perfectly, and somehow it didn't meet your expectations, and then you're still disappointed by even a delicious meal because you're focused on you and the process and this and that. But somebody who is really paying attention to the intent of cooking and what it is supposed to do can hold recipes loosely. And somebody who's even writing a recipe, a cookbook author, is going to also give a lot of substitutions, a lot of guidance. Like, don't get too hung up on this. If you don't have this exactly, maybe you have this instead. You can use substitutions. Because the point of the matter is, let's say it's a garlicky, lemony chicken pasta dish. I don't know. And the original chef or person who came up with that recipe likely made it up to begin with, number one. Like, we did not get downloaded with exact recipes to follow. Like, people, creative people that were willing to play with ingredients and measurements and all of that, which meant they were also willing to fail, by the way, but they were like, I just want a tasty meal here. And then they would write down their recipes so that other people could make, and they could even remember. But it's a guide. It's a guide. But when you're new, and we have God's word, and we have rules that we're supposed to follow. But if you are not listening for the heart of the matter, the whole point of why you're following the rules, you're going to get focused on the rules like the Pharisees were, and you're going to miss it. So Jesus was like a master chef coming down and teaching us how to cook a good life, how to cook love, how to share love and feed people. He even uses the analogy of feeding a lot. But as your skills grow and you understand, oh, I see how, I mean, you've got to follow recipes in the beginning, or it's a good place to start. And by following the recipes and having a few good meals and getting to learn to trust yourself and learning the actual skills of, okay, meat has to be cooked this way, and when we add things in this order, we can maybe even create a sauce. We learn some of the skills. So we have to practice the process and start with sort of, being rule followers. But as we're engaged in learning the rules and kind of putting it all together of what's really happening, then we become a little bit more confident. And then we can start maybe trying a few substitutions. Maybe we can't get to the store, and we look in our pantry and our fridge and go, well, I don't have lemon, but I do have vinegar, because it's really about having an acidic flavor. And maybe I don't have exactly that much garlic, but I've got a little onion. We're going to add some of that flavor. Maybe I don't have only basil, but I've got maybe an Italian or Mediterranean seasoning blend. Because the whole point is these flavor profiles that come together and create a delicious meal. And then allowing yourself to play with things a little bit. And you're not going to always get it right, too. Jesus wants us, he let the apostles do this. He let them get it wrong a little bit. He let them sort of play with the ingredients of what it means so that they could, for themselves, get the heart of the message. And he would gently come alongside. You can do that with yourself, even in the kitchen. Like, the point is to have a delicious meal that is satisfying. The person who never gets beyond the rules and the exact recipe may eventually become a very frustrated person who is like, oh, I don't have that and I can't get to the store. So, I'm just going to have a microwave meal instead, or I'm going to fix this other thing. And they're missing the point of it. They're focusing on the wrong thing. Jesus is coming here and going, no, I'm coming to teach you how to cook. Like, let's get in there and cook, and let's get creative. And I made you uniquely. And I love how we even get these different books of the Bible telling some of the same stories from different perspectives so that we can even understand it in a different way. So make sure you know what you're asking your brain to get focused on. And we can retrain our brains. So if you are a rule follower, maybe get in the kitchen and break a few rules. At the end of the day, you're not hurting anybody. You might learn about the heart of cooking and what it is supposed to do, and allow yourself to get creative. We can really use things like this, experiences like this, to retrain our brain so that then we can even take that skill out into the world in real life. I know some people like to, clean a certain way. Maybe that's another good analogy. And you're teaching your kids how to get something clean in the house. And you have a very specific method that works for you. And maybe you show your kids your method, but then you also give them a little bit of freedom to go, you know what? As long as it looks like this, show them the end product. As long as it looks like this when it's done, hey, figure it out. I'm gonna teach you, but then give people freedom and give yourself freedom to try different ways. We can get so stuck on our rules and our way, and we get in ruts. Our brain gets in ruts, and we've got to get our brain out of the ruts, out of just focused on rules and a way and my way and the way, and get creative and get experimental. But first, before you get there, don't get ahead of yourself. So that's why I started with the beginner chef, beginner cook. And that's what we do with our faith. Our starting place is often rules. But you've got to understand the rules, follow the rules for a time until you understand the heart of the matter. And then you're supposed to grow beyond. Because once you get it, and you're listening, and you're seeing, then you can really go out and be a true light in the world. And there's a lot of people that stop in their spiritual and faith journey and only get to a certain part and think they're mature. And they're hurting a lot of people out there in the world by going, here, this is how you do it. This is the right way. This is my way. And then calling it God's way. You've got to teach people by example, and then let people have direct access. And we all have direct access, so it's not a letting or not. But sometimes we can scare people that are less mature than us. And we can even get in a power thing and go, hey, this is how you do it. Let me show you how faith is done. Let me show you how good living is done. And by the very nature of it, when we are the ones teaching, so even me saying this, by the very nature of it, don't take my word for it. Get in the word yourself. And you grow, allow your faith to grow like that mustard seed. That's also in chapter 4. Be a good patch of soil. Be a good teacher to yourself. But you've got to, if you're one of those, and I was like this too. I have a lot of perfectionistic tendencies and judgmental type behavior. I talked a lot about it yesterday. And no, that's not being a light in the world. That is casting a lot more shadows and darkness. And that pushes people away. Love is it. Love is it. I love you too. I love you too. So, I've got to ramp up my chef skills in this recipe meal of life so that I can make sure that I'm really doing my best. That's all I can do. I can't do it perfectly, can't. I can't even be good on my own. But I've got the right ingredients, and I've got the master chef alongside me, helping me choose ingredients when I'm listening and looking and putting them together to hopefully create a delicious meal of a life that helps feed other people, not poison them, not give them a false, unnutritious, prepackaged, processed food, something to feed on. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to hear if this analogy, if you're tracking with this. And it's about our brain science. So make sure you're focused on the heart of the matter. I came over here to show you this. Beautiful. focused on the heart of the matter, which means you've got to keep your heart focused and also growing. And we don't grow in sameness. We don't grow in a right way. Like, we've got to intentionally get ourselves out of some ruts and open our eyes and look around, and be willing once in a while to also make a bad meal. Like, okay, because when you do that, then you learn, oh yeah, I can't add that much garlic to something, or salt. Salt is an analogy used a lot in the Bible. I can't add too much salt. Then yeah. So sometimes by learning the right mixture, you've also got to allow yourself to get it wrong sometimes. And then you can always go back with the right heart and posture. And even in that, talk to people and say, gosh, I really got it wrong the other day. I'm so sorry. And by virtue of being willing to do that, to be wrong and to be humble, you're also being that leader by example. You're giving other people permission to not be perfect, to not get set on their way or the highway. You know, all of those things that they just get us into trouble. They lead straight to the highway of hell. You know, and that's a state of mind too. Hell is a state of mind. And heaven can also be a state of mind and a state of heart. And that is found in love and in freedom. So if you're not feeling overwhelming love and you're not feeling free, it's time to get in there and play with some different ingredients and get your heart focused right. No, I don't even want to use that word. Focused on God. Look at me using that. Get your heart focused on, you know, the one who created life. Because if you allow, and even, okay, one more, like, this is me. I just keep talking. I know. But even looking out in nature, he didn't create one kind of tree. I'm standing on one tiny little patch of earth here, and look how many trees are right in my view. Look how much diversity there is around me, and even some wild purple flowers over here on this one spot on earth. This is God's character. God does not give us an excuse. Again, it comes back to paying attention. Look how beautiful. Look how beautiful these are. Oh, and here's even yet another tree. Look at how beautiful that is. And how beautiful that one is. And anyway, if we open our eyes and we're listening, and nobody even has to say a word, you just need to go out in nature yourself and look and listen. And you will hear and you will see, even if you never open your Bible. But I do think we should open our Bibles if we have access to them. All right, go have a great day. I gotta go mow the lawn before it gets too hot. That's gonna be my exercise today. All right, talk to you guys later. Rise and shine.